Hello everyone, if you want to check your practices, you may watch this video. We are going to start with practice of real numbers. Practice 0.1. And the first practice, he asks you to determine which numbers in the set, and he gives you a bunch of numbers, are natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, rational numbers, and irrational numbers. So let's get started with natural numbers. And as we can see here, we have a number that is 6/3. This number basically is equal to 2, and 2 is part of natural numbers, which are the counting numbers. So we have 6/3 as the first number in the set, and we also have 8 as the second number in natural numbers. Let's move to the second point. Whole numbers will include also the natural numbers 6/3 and 8 and 0. However, 0 is not mentioned in the set, so these are the whole numbers. Let's go to the other request. He asks you to give him integers. The integers numbers will include -22 and -1, and also the whole numbers, which are 6/3 and 8. Now let's move to the rational numbers. We will have all integers along with any number that we can write in terms of fraction. So we are going to start with -22, then -7.5, then we will have -1, and also we will have -1/4, and we will have 6/3, and the last number will be number 8. The rest of the set will be considered as irrational numbers, and we left out with only 2 numbers. So the irrational numbers will include -y and half of square root of 2, or half multiplied by square root of 2. So here is the summary of the answer. Natural number will be 6/3 and 8. Whole numbers will be the same numbers. Then the integers will include whole numbers along with -22 and -1. Rational numbers will include all integers along with -7.5 and -1/4. The rest of the number in the set will be rational numbers, which are -y and half multiplied by square root of 2. Now let's move to the second practice. Plot the real numbers on the real number line. So let's have the number line. First, you have 5/2, which equal to 2.5. So it will be between number 2 and number 3. It will be here. Then you need to plot -1.6, which will be between number -2 and number -1. So it will be here. Then you need to plot -3/4, which equal to -0.75. So it will be between number -1 and 0. It will be almost here. The last number that you have is 0.7, and this number will be between 0 and 1. So almost it will be here. And this is the answer of this practice. Now let's move to ordering real numbers practices. Practice 0.3. Place the appropriate inequality symbol less than or greater than between the pair of real numbers. So let's have the real number line. We have the first pair, number 1 and -5. Number 1 is here and -5 is here. We can see that number 1 is to the right of -5. So we can say that number 1 is greater than -5. The second pair of numbers, we have 3/2, which we can be plot here. And the other number is number 7. And we can see that number 7 is to the right of 3/2. So we can say that 3/2 is less than number 7. The third pair of numbers, we have -2/3, which can be plotted in this point. And also we have 3 over 4, which we can plot in this point, and we can see that negative 2 over 3 is to the right of negative 3 over 4, so we can say that negative 2 over 3 is greater than negative 3 over 4. The last pair of numbers, we have negative 3.7 and 1, and we can plot 3.7 at this point, and we can see that negative 3.7 is to the left of number 1, or number 1 is to the right of negative 3.7. So we can say that negative 3.7 is less than number 1. Let's move to practice 0.4. Describe the subset of real numbers that the inequality represents. We have the first inequality, x greater than negative 3. So the inequality donates all real numbers greater than negative 3. We can write it like this, parentheses, negative 3. So negative 3 is not included. And the second part will be positive infinity. Let's draw it in the real number line. Here is negative 3. We are going to draw parentheses. So negative 3 is not included. So the inequality will include all the real numbers greater than negative 3. Let's move to the second inequality. We have x is greater than 0 and x is less than or equal to 4. So the inequality will donate all real numbers that is greater than 0 and less than or equal to number 4. So here is number 0. We are going to draw parentheses, which means that 0 is not included. Then here is number 4. We will draw a bracket, which means that number 4 is included with the interval. And here is the numbers between them. Now let's move to the next practice. Give variable description of the interval. You will have a bracket, negative 2 and 5 parentheses. So the interval represent all real numbers that is or that are greater than or equal to negative 2 and less than 5. The last practice here. Use inequality notation to represent statement is greater than negative 2 and at most 4. So we have the inequality that will be like this, negative 2 and x will be greater than negative 2 and will be less or equal to 4. At most, it means that the x values could be less than or equal to the number 4. Now let's solve the absolute value and distance practices. Practice 0.5. Evaluate each expression. So the first expression that we have is absolute value of number 1. It is a positive number, so the absolute value of it will be positive 1. Then we have negative, the absolute value of 3 over 4. So the absolute value of 3 over 4 will be the same number, which is 3 over 4. However, it will be multiplied by the outside negative, so the answer will be negative 3 over 4. Now, the next number we have 2 over the absolute value of negative 3. So we have 2 as it is. However, it will be divided by negative multiplied by negative 3, which is the absolute value of negative 3, and the final answer will be 2 over 3. The last expression that we have is negative the absolute value of 0.7. So the answer of it, the absolute value of 0.7 will be positive 0.7 multiplied by the outside negative. So the final answer will be negative 0.7. That's all for this practice. Let's move to the next practice. We have practice 0.6. List the appropriate symbol less than, greater than, or equal between the pair of real numbers. So we have the first pairs. We have the absolute value of -3, which equal to +3, and we have also the absolute value of number 4, which equal to 4. Now we can see that 3 and 4, they have a relation, that is, we can say the absolute value of -3 is less than the absolute value of 4. The next pair of numbers, we have the absolute value of -4. So the absolute value of -4 is equal to negative multiplied by -4, which is +4, and it will be multiplied by the outside negative, so the answer of it will be -4. So the absolute value of -4 will be equal to -4. And we have also negative multiplied by the absolute value of 4. So the absolute value of 4 is 4, and it is multiplied by the outside negative, so the answer will be -4. Now we have -4 in both of these expressions, so they are equal to each other. The next pair of numbers, we have the absolute value of -3, which equal to negative multiplied by -3, which is number 3. Then we have negative multiplied by the absolute value of -3. So the absolute value of -3 is equal to 3, and it will be multiplied by the outside negative, so the answer will be -3. So here we can recognize that the absolute value of -3 greater than negative multiplied by the absolute value of -3. Let's move to the next practice. Finding a distance. Find the distance between 35 and -23. So you will take the absolute value of 35 minus, and you are going to set -23 as it is. Now you have 2 minus one of the rule and the second one of the number itself. So it will be converting into a positive number. So it will be the absolute value between 35 plus 23, which is the absolute value of 58, and it is equal to 58. The second distance that he required you to find is between -35 and -23. So you will set the absolute value of -35 and negative, then you are going to place the -23. Now it will be -35 plus 23, which equal to the absolute value of 12, and it will be equal to 12. The last one, you are required to find the distance between 35 and 23. So you are going to do the absolute value of 35 minus 23, which is equal to the absolute value of 12, and it will equal to 12. Now let's solve algebraic expression practices. You have practice 0.7. Identify terms and coefficient of -2x plus 4. So the terms will be -2x and also 4, which is the constant term. Then the coefficients will be -2 and 4. The second practice, he asks you to evaluate 4x minus 5 when x is equal to 0. So it will be 4, and we are going to substitute the value of x by 0 minus 5. So 4 multiplied by 0 is 0, and we are going to lift out with -5 or -5. Now let's move to the next practice. You have practice 0.8. Identify the role of algebra illustrated by the statement. The first statement, you can say that x plus 9 equal to 9 plus x. So he replaced the position of each term, and it has an addition operation. So here the property will be commutative property of addition. Now in the second, you can see that the terms are holding the same positions, and they have multiplication operation between them. So we can say that they have an associative property of multiplication. In the last statement, we can see that y squared is distributed among the two terms, so it will be multiplied by the 2 and 5x squared. So we can call this as distributive property. Let's move to the last practice, practice 0.9. Multiply fractions. You have 3 over 5 multiplied by x over 6. So it will be equal to 3x over 30. And we can simplify 3 over 30 to be x over 10. So in multiplication, the fractions, you just need to multiply numerator with numerator and denominator with the denominator. Let's go to the second practice. Here you have add two different fractions. You have x over 10 plus 2x over 5. So if you wanna to add fractions, you must make the denominator have the same value. Here we have 5 and 10, and we can multiply the 5 by 2 to become 10. So we are going to do this. We are going to multiply it by 2 over 2 to become x over 10 plus 4x over 10. Now we can add the denominators. It will be 5x over 10, and we can simplify it to be x over 2. Thank you for watching.